You're listening to Ecosysteming, the podcast redefining economic development through the lens of equitable entrepreneurship. Join NC Idea as we engage with entrepreneurs and experts who are challenging the status quo and driving lasting change.
Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Ecosysteming podcast. I'm your host, Tom Rue, and I am so lucky to be in studio today with, frankly, a dear friend, an incredible founder, and a generous ecosystem partner. Of course, I am speaking of Mr. Doug Speight, CEO of Axe Nano. Douglas?
Thank you, man. Our feelings are mutual.
Thank you for joining us in studio today. So, as is the process when I'm joined by somebody as accomplished as you, I'm going to ask you to be patient for a second while I rattle off some things on your CV, and then we'll go back and double click.
Sounds great.
On whatever you want to or wherever the mood takes us. But you really do have a lot of stuff going on. I mentioned your current, big gig as CEO and founder of Axe Nano, which I think you founded in May of 2021.
Correct.
So you're just past 5 years now.
Yep.
That's critical.
Yes, it is.
Time in a startup.
Absolutely.
So you kind of made it through the high risk stage, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's we're right over the 5-year mark. Super excited about it. But just want to correct you on some of the trajectory and timeline.
Please.
So Axe Nano actually existed prior to me. Was created in 2015. But went through a number of iterations before I came on as CEO in May of 2021.
Was it doing what it's doing today back since then?
Portions of it. So it was largely a contract research organization for the first several years. So it was doing more of a sort of spray and pray R&D approach with a variety of different funding mechanisms from agencies and foundations and the like. No real product portfolio to speak of. And part of my job of coming on board in 2021 was to reformat the company as a product-oriented and product-focused company. And so the rest has been history. I mean, we've been going gangbusters ever since.
And speaking of, what does the company do?
Yeah, so Axe Nano develops and builds these industrial platforms to destroy complex wastes, including PFAS forever chemicals and a whole host of other industrial chemicals that are used in manufacturing processes that are toxic to humans. The way I like to think about it is we build tools to destroy the world's worst chemicals.
So was that like a discovery back from the CRO days of the company?
Actually, no. And so this is a perfect fit for me, and my history in terms of trying to find these underutilized assets and orphan business units and orphan technologies. When I came on board in 2021, we were focused in environmental remediation. So this is just using chemistry to change the chemistry of groundwater to remove contaminants and replace it to its normal state, which isn't optimal, right? You're adding more chemicals to take away chemicals, and it just isn't optimal. But we had a product at the time. It was really taking off in the industry. But the remediation industry is notoriously cheap, right? They want everything for fractions of pennies on the dollar. Nobody has any money, and there's a lot of work to do. So what I did is refocus the company upstream to these industrial chemicals that have to be used in manufacturing processes, and ask the question, what do we need to destroy that there, right? At the source, at the point source. So
which gives you scale.
Yeah, exactly. So we identified this really interesting technology platform in the bowels of General Atomics, the defense contractor, right?
Really?
The Predator drone manufacturer. They had created this system, this supercritical water oxidation system that uses high temperature, high pressure to destroy basically anything. So they've been using this in demilitarization for probably a dozen years or so. So they mobilized this technology to former war zones to destroy nerve gases and explosives and all types of really nasty stuff.
That is nasty.
And we realized, hey, if this thing can destroy anything, let's reposition it for this environmental cause that's affecting everybody at the drinking water stage, right?
God, I love that story.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me when you approached me years ago. Like, so we met 10 years ago when I started here, and you were, I think you were an EIR for Code 2040.
Yeah.
And then you were also in the process of transitioning to become the executive director at the American Underground.
Correct.
Right during that time. But then sometime after that, you came to visit me
Hey, we
in
went
my
fishing.
home, and we went fishing.
Absolutely.
I took you out on my boat.
Yeah.
I asked you, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I asked you, so do you fish? And you're like, yeah. Sir,
Right.
I don't mean to cast aspersions on your good name,
Aspersions, right.
but based upon your performance in my boat, I don't know that
You
you've
take
ever,
issue with that.
I don't know that you've ever even held a fishing pole.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because I recounted that story to my father. So I grew up with a huge pond behind my house, right? Like fishing every day after school. And
okay, so what you're saying is you did in fact fish at some point in your life.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But when I came to visit you, I was so captivated with this notion of like finding and identifying these technological assets and being able to extract them and acquire them and repurpose them and restructure companies, that I was just so
It was a
engrossed
good
in that.
conversation.
It was a great
really
conversation, which led to what we're doing today, quite honestly. Like a lot of the things we talked about in that boat that day are strategies that I employ in the company today.
Wow, it sounds like I should be upgrading my boat and doing more of that. I wonder how my board would feel about that.
Right.
The organization should buy me a boat so I could host these things. We could do mentoring sessions on Lake Orange.
That would be a great podcast.
Well, we can go back to Axe Nano if we need to, but let me just give you your due and talk about everything else, okay? You're a visiting lecture fellow at Duke in the I&E department there, which, considering you're a A&T undergrad and a Chapel Hill MBA, I'm surprised Duke lets you on the property.
I'm surprised they even invited me, quite honestly.
I mean, but hey, game recognizes game, I guess.
I guess.
You are an Entrepreneurs for Impact, otherwise known as EFI Climate Fellow.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Yep.
Based upon what you're doing. You were founding partner of Annex Tech Partners. We talked about Executive Director American Underground and EIR for Code 2040. You were 5 years at NCA&T with a focus in tech transfer.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, did that happen like right after you did your undergraduate, or?
No, actually, I started my first company as a junior in college.
Of course you did.
And so reluctantly. So there's a great story behind this, because my wife reminds me, we were both in undergrad at the same time at A&T. And my wife reminds me to this day, she said, on our second date, we went out to eat and you said you would never start a company because you grew up in an entrepreneurial family. You saw all the sacrifices, you saw all of the investment, the missed football games and the whole deal. And she said, you promised me you'd never start a company. And by the end of the year, I had started my very first companies.
I mean, your wife is a lovely human being, but you can gently push back to say that's a very common way to fall into entrepreneurship.
Common way.
I'm never going to, and then it happens.
Yeah.
I never set out to do that.
So I had just completed an internship at Procter & Gamble for the summer, where I managed all of their engineering drawings, all of their CAD drawings for an entire manufacturing plant. So,
were you in Cincinnati?
No, I was in North Carolina. I was just outside of Greensboro.
Okay.
And so I realized at that point in time, when I was wrapping up the internship, I realized that there was nobody on staff who understood CAD, no one who could develop archival systems, nobody who had almost today it's called PLM, right? Product lifecycle management, but nobody had those skills back in the day. And I started thinking about it after the end of the internship, sat down with a classmate who was also entrepreneurial. He did an internship at Philip Morris at the time, and we started comparing notes. And at the end of the conversation, I realized, wow, at the time, these two companies are like Fortune 100 companies. If they have this gap in skill and experience, then imagine how many other companies have this exact same skill. And that's how core services started.
Not just companies, but certain government agencies
100%.
focused on space.
100%.
You did
Absolutely.
3 years at NASA with a focus on tech transfer.
I did. Yes. Yes.
Did I say, viewers, that I have an impressive guest today? I mean, you know now that I do. And then we're going to double click on whatever you want to in a second. But the last thing on your CV I need to recognize, because it's very personal to me, and it was also a great service to NCIDEA, and that was you were a founding member of the Black Entrepreneurship Council.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, when in the wake of George Floyd, you know, when a lot of the world, well-intended, said, hey, you know, enough is enough. We need to focus on equity. You know, equity is one of the core values of NCIDEA. You know, we had been an early funder of the Black Wall Street movement that was here in Durham.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that couldn't find its sustaining leg. And candidly, I was pressed for, like, what could we do in a more realistic, sustained way? And that gave birth to what became the Black Entrepreneurship Council. I was scared to death when we announced it, you know, that we were asking for distinguished members of the community to volunteer to help guide and inform what the funding priorities for NCIDEA should be. You know, it's like you're throwing a party, but you don't. What do you do if nobody shows up?
Yeah.
Right.
And instead, you had 26 people show up.
We thought, okay, let's be realistic and let's shoot for 15 council members, you know, and hope that we get like 16 applications. We were able to then create actually a 25-person council because we had 137 applications, I think, from across the state. And you were joined by equally gifted and accomplished colleagues. But you really, you know, you and a couple other, my board chair, Spencer Disher, another one of my board members, Jerry Edmonds, they also served on the council. By the way, hi, Spencer. I know he watches and tunes into the pod. He's a big fan.
Yeah,
and,
shout out to Spencer. A great individual.
We were
Absolutely.
so lucky to have him on the board.
Yeah.
And even more so that in the last couple of years, he's been my board chair. But it was really, you know, you all in those early days taking that position where, frankly, and you know, kind of lending your credibility to our ambition, right? I don't want to surprise anybody, but I'm a white man.
What?
And to be, you know, leading something called the Black Entrepreneurship Council is not appropriate. Right. So we didn't even try. A lot of good and well-intended people are out there, but like it doesn't make it right. So what we said was, listen, we're going to do something that's truly trust-based philanthropy.
Absolutely.
We're going to trust these accomplished individuals to tell us what should those priorities be. And we knew that our role was make sure y'all had clean pads of paper and sharp pencils and plenty of water and like where are the you know, the guide rails. And then within those guide rails, because there's certain things still as a private foundation, you know, we have to abide by. But within those guide rails, like, what should we do? Right. And we weren't leading that charge. You all were.
Yeah.
And so I need to say thank you, because in the early days, there were some tough conversations that had to happen.
Very.
And you never shied away.
Yeah.
And I will forever be appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I couldn't say some of those things that needed to be said. It took the senior members of the council to do that. So between you and Spencer and Jerry and others, we were very fortunate. I will say, as a programming note, you know, all the original terms have expired now. So the BEC is kind of in stasis at the moment. And because quite frankly, let me tee you up and say that. I'll say very briefly, I am very disappointed, mostly from the philanthropic community. I mean, I know it's very hostile right now, the environment towards anything that says equity.
Absolutely.
But that's what philanthropy is supposed to address.
100% agreed.
Right?
100%.
And I remember when I sold the board originally on the BEC, I said, we just have to jumpstart it. Like just right. Just give me $500,000
right.
and we'll seed the first round of stuff. And surely others will join us in the cause.
Yeah.
Right. And that first 500 turned into a second 500 and then a third 500.
Yeah.
And then when we clocked in over 2 million, I tell you what, I struggled because, I struggled with my sense of humanity. Like where
Yeah.
where's
all the support? Where is all the...
our funding is tiny. We're a rounding error.
Correct.
As this tiny little private foundation. There are foundations with, exponentially more funds who state equity is a value
100%
and a goal.
Yeah.
But man, when you look at their 990, you look at the way where they're putting their money, it doesn't manifest.
Tom, this is such an interesting conversation because the same is true on the for-profit venture side, right? And which has been one of my criticisms of the industry for 10 plus years now, is that there are some structural impediments to venture capital getting to women and Black and Latino founders, certainly. But those pale in comparison to the practice, the patterns, the behaviors that are really the problem, and nobody wants to talk about that. Both of us tend to be students of history to a large extent, right? And you look at all of the major public investments and all of the capital allocations that made all the difference in the biggest capitalist society in the world, right? Homestead Act, right? The Railroad Rights Act, just go down the list of all of them. The GI Bill. You look at all of those well-intended investments, and where they fell apart was at the local level, right? At some local person or body of decision makers decided you get that funding and you don't, right? And the same is true in venture. And nobody wants to talk about that. It's behavioral. The problem is behavioral. It's at the managing partner or investment partner level. No LP comes to a fund and says, hey, oh, by the way, before I sign this capital commitment, I want you to make sure that you don't invest more than 2.3% of this capital in women and people of color. Nobody says that.
But magically, that's what's
magically every year.
Yeah.
And so we're framing the question wrong. Instead of asking like what's broken with venture, let's reframe it to say what behavioral patterns are we establishing that produce the exact same results every freaking year, right? Like, how else do you explain this? It's behavioral, and nobody wants to address that. The VC industry doesn't want to address that.
Yep.
I'll probably wind up in VC timeout by saying this, right? But it's the truth, right? It's not the money. The problem was never the amount of money that's available. What, $30 billion in VC was raised in first quarter of this year? Like, the top of the funnel gets more than what it needs. It's right there at the bottleneck at the end of the funnel. That's always been the problem.
Yeah, of course you are so right. And it's also, it's the curse of lowered expectations, the curse of different expectations.
Absolutely.
Like you look at some just high flying flameouts. I mean, like glorious failures that movies have been made out of.
Yep.
But if it's a white dude in the valley, he's celebrated.
100%.
And worse, he gets refunded again
within 2 years. Right.
And others, it's like, oh, you didn't slay the dragon and bring me the unicorn horn?
Correct.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's it. Or the other thing I've seen, and this again is informed by some of the stuff going back to my time at Kaufman, where there is a big fund that's saying, oh no, that really matters to us. It's the curse of lowered expectations.
Absolutely right.
So we're going to go ahead and fund that Black founder.
Right.
And you know what? Shh, don't tell anybody. We don't give a if they're successful or not.
Correct.
We're just, we did our good deed over here. And, we're on to the
Very
next
frustrating.
thing.
Absolutely.
And it's disgusting.
It is.
On
it
many,
is.
many fronts.
Absolutely. I mean, and you think about the intangible, what I tend to to think about a lot, and I spend a lot of time in my own head. I think about the incentives and disincentives at that bottleneck point, at the investment decision point. And to your point, I believe that the pattern that's been established in the industry is, oh, we don't mind if you lose money on those big bets, on the flashy, sexy stuff,
Right.
but don't lose money on that.
Right.
Right? If you lose money on that, could risk your career trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, like that factors into how investors engage with founders that don't fit the pattern.
And I'm just, it's your big, beautiful brain that always takes us down these really interesting discussion points. So let's take the same concept, but leap over to another side, and that's in public policy.
Yeah.
Right. And when I think about economic development best practices, where you are in certain parts of the country, I'm trying to keep this less controversial, right? Like where maybe funding more people that look like you has historically not been the norm.
Right.
Did I say that? Well,
right.
Right. And what'll happen is you'll see in some cases there's some adjutant force that's just a big enough nuisance pain in the ass that, okay, so some money is given there, right? But then you just have this faction that's rooting against you from the jump.
Absolutely.
And when you invariably succumb to, 100 years of disinvestment and just structural and infrastructural hurdles to overcome, it's like, yeah, see, that's
I told you
why
so. Right.
we don't do that.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yep.
That's why.
Yep.
And that, you want to talk about something that's just insidious, right? And
Absolutely.
it exists in the ether,
Mhm.
but it's like folks that know a certain code and they collaborate without being obvious.
Absolutely.
To drive that outcome.
Absolutely right. It really comes down to philosophy, right? Do you have a scarcity mindset, or do you have an abundance mindset where your end goal at the end of the day is to grow the economy, right? Full stop. Period, point blank. That's the goal, right? And if that is your goal, then you have to seed the areas that have been historically underutilized, because that's a growing part of the population, right? What you're after are net producers within your economy, net contributors to overall GDP. And if you just look at it that way, that approach is colorblind, right? And so, but it's the scarcity mindset that keeps people from doing that, because somehow it equates to, if I spend more money over here, I'm hedging my bets. But if I spend money over here where investment hasn't been made, somehow that's a loss leader in my portfolio.
Right. Don't start talking logic and reason.
Right. That has no place here.
Because I know this, having been in this kind of ecosystem building space for 2 decades now, if you are truly driven by data,
absolutely,
and if you're truly willing to put the effort in and be informed, right? If you turn on that part of your brain that you've suspended for so long, that it's called critical thinking, you will find reams and reams of data.
Absolutely.
That says, looking through an equity lens, supporting multifacets, of the economy, provides great ROI.
100%.
Overperforms.
Absolutely.
The norms, right? So I've often said, if I can't convince you that it's the right thing to do, then I'm going to try to appeal to your business side.
Absolutely.
And tell you it's the smart thing to do.
Correct.
And now when you cover those two bases, right? So, okay, again,
that only leaves so much room left for.
So what's the real reason now not to?
That's exactly right. So what's interesting about this was some of our mutual friends that I think the world of, quite honestly, Mitch Kapor and Frida Kapor-Klein. For years, I have respected them greatly for what they've done, for the data that they've produced across their entire portfolio. And I have to shout out Dave McClure, founder of 500 Startups. Shout out, Dave, wherever you are on the globe. I'll find out. I'll catch up with you soon. Dave always said that he not only needed to find alpha in his portfolio, but he needed extra alpha against his peers.
Right.
And so what can I do rather than just tagging on to all of their investments? What can I do to produce that extra alpha that will make LPs come back to 500 as opposed to my competitors? And he used to say, I use other investors that are peers. I use their sexism and racism against them.
Yeah.
To find those undervalued assets. Why would you not? It's value investing, right? Why would you not take that approach? It's genius, but it's also super obvious.
Right.
And it's interesting that people don't adopt that same mindset from the public sector, right? In investments, rather than making large corporate relocation investments, where those same corporations that you're relocating to your state have the same ability to relocate to another state.
You're baiting me now. You are baiting me, sir.
It's one of my pet peeves, my economic pet peeves. It's why. Do you understand what GDP means?
Right.
That's not it.
No.
That is not it.
No, especially when you're moving a company from like one state to the other.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't. And it's yet we race to the bottom to compete
along with
for that
other
business, right? And we ignore just in the aggregate, all net new jobs in this country are created by nascent firms, right? When you're a startup, all you do is hire people.
That's it.
Right. So if you hear your elected officials stumping around job creation, right?
Right.
Okay. What's your entrepreneurship strategy?
Right.
Right. Or my other favorite bugaboo is, we just recruited this company to move here.
Right.
And they're gonna, it's $1 billion investment and it's, 4,000 jobs. And they love to use that investment lingo, right?
Right.
And let's unpack that word. What that means is the factory they're going to have to build costs $1 billion to construct.
Correct.
Okay. That's not a community asset.
Not at all.
You're not having your daughter's quinceañera in the glass lobby, the beautiful glass lobby under the chandeliers, right? As a matter of fact, if they show up at the gates where the security guard is, you're going to be shown the door.
Right, in an aggressive way.
So like this terminology, I mean, some ECDev professional, I hope they're getting a royalty off after coming up with that terminology because it is brilliant. It sounds so impressive.
Sounds good.
They're going to build and we're going to have some nice temporary construction jobs, but that is not a community asset.
Correct.
So when you say investment, it's not. It's a cost of doing business.
That's right.
For the company to be there.
Correct.
Right? So it's just, I've given up that we should wholesale change. It's got to be this because both parties are addicted to these, golden shovel moments and the pressers and the photo ops.
Big
it's
scissors.
Great It's great politics, and nobody's around years later when some biz journal does the quiet little story that goes, "Oh, VinFast is not producing like they said they were going to."
Yeah, short memories.
That's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Right. And we are at a time where the General Assembly is, after I think 2 years, trying to finally pass a budget. And one of the bugaboos that's being debated is the funding for NC Innovation. For viewers and listeners, this was an effort that was approved. It was heavily debated.
Absolutely.
And it was approved. Let me say that again. It was approved by the General Assembly after a vigorous debate just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a set aside. It wasn't even $500 million of tax dollars went to the organization. The state just said, we'll lend you, so to speak. I mean, not in a literal sense, but we'll let you use $500 million.
Correct.
And specifically the earnings off of that to fund a new model that, in my personal opinion, is redefining tech transfer and commercialization 100%. Nationwide.
Absolutely.
Autumn will be doing studies. Brookings will be doing studies of this. People from other states will be flocking to North Carolina to see how we're doing this and how we did it and why we did it and what the outcome was. And yet here we are just 2 years later talking realistically about gutting it.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's like, here's the golden goose, and it's a follow-on investment in what we're already investing
That's
in from
exactly
a research.
right.
So, like, why are we afraid or unwilling to invest in ourselves, Doug?
It makes no sense, right? This is incremental investment, to your point, above and beyond the federal investment and the R&D enterprise across the state, and the universities across the state. Prior state investments, like this is simple incremental execution funds. So the way that it's interesting because the way that I look at our journey as a startup leadership team is that we can categorize risk in three different ways. We do this every single day, every single week. There's technology risk, there's market risk, and there's execution risk. And in my opinion, NC Innovation reduces the technical risk and the execution risk of seeing new products and new technologies make it to market, right? Like,
Yes.
and it confirms the market risk, right? So how can you not invest funds to reduce those three risk categories and increase your level of your probability of success? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and that's why I'll never succeed in public office
Same.
because my brain doesn't function in a way that lets me
Would
just
never get through the primary.
yeah. So unfortunately, there's too much video of me out there saying otherwise. I actually already piss off enough people in just the good old classic economic development landscape
Right.
because I say such wonderful things about traditional smokestack chasing.
Yeah.
And I will say in my own defense, at the risk of sounding like I'm being defensive, I'm getting older, and so I'm having less. I can't say the actual word. I'm having less F's to give, and I've tried logic and reason,
Yeah.
and I still can't get people to listen. So I'm trying obnoxious for right now and see if that gets anybody's attention.
See if it moves the needle.
I mean, maybe we should rethink some priorities around here. So let's talk about, in a little happier term, this ecosysteming. This is the ecosysteming podcast after all.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in it at the ecosystem level, the Code 2040, American Underground. You're obviously in this space from a founder standpoint. You're in this space from an investment standpoint. So you are a rare day walker in this regard. You are. You're a day walker. So from your perspective, what would you prioritize? What's lacking in the ecosystem, or what would you prioritize, or how do you think? Because now let's look to the side of light.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of good things happening,
Absolutely.
right? We've got a statewide network, over 300 partners, organizations we have funded working together. By the way, shout out for the summit in November.
Yeah.
Come and see it. It is a genuine family reunion, and it's just lit. And this year is going to be every bit as cool as years past.
Every year you exceed your expectations.
We actually do. And I'm kind
of,
I'll confess something to you. Don't tell anybody. But every year I get a little more nervous. Like, how are we going to elevate?
How are we going to level up?
I mean, because last year was
last year was great,
hook, man. And so I'm going into this year going, oh, wow, how are we going to do better?
What do we need to do?
But I digress. What's lacking, or what could we be doing better? Or what should we be prioritizing? You day walker, you've got a vantage point that few others do. So let's hear from that big, beautiful brain of yours.
Yeah. So I think of this in three different categories, right? And the first goes back to the role that NC Innovation plays in all of this, actually, and in NC Idea as well, right? How do you reduce those three categories of risk? Technology risk is, will my technology work, right? Will my solution work in market conditions? Market risk is, will anybody want this? Will they pay for it? Will I be able to to make a profit on it? But execution risk is all about people and capital, right? The ability to pull it off. And so when I think of what the ecosystem needs to do, NC Idea has done a great job in providing support for entrepreneurs to evaluate market risk, do all of the customer discovery and everything that they need in order to assure themselves that there's a market opportunity worthwhile, worthy of the venture. Um, but you also do a lot of development, skill development for people and entrepreneurs. And I think this is so important and so overlooked in the community is you're building capacity in each of the members that go through each of the recipients of the grants, each of the organizations that help support entrepreneurs. You're constantly building capacity there and new skills. And even if the venture that they're working on today doesn't succeed, they're well positioned for the next one, right?
Yeah.
To be even more successful and raise their level of probability. And that is so important, but it's an intangible that never shows up in anybody's reports, right?
Right.
But it's so critical to a vibrant ecosystem. Um, the Everyone thinks of simply capital and technology when it comes to a startup ecosystem. That's where their mind goes
Right.
immediately. And yes, those are important things, but what's even more important are the people to pull it off, right? And that's one thing culturally that I tend to focus a lot of time on with building teams is empowering my team, picking the right team members, cultivating the right skills within them, coaching, mentoring, like building them up. If they aren't replacing me in 5 years, within a 5-year horizon, I've done something wrong, right? And we need to have that same mentality in the ecosystem. How do we keep the churn going and the ecosystem development um, perspective? How do we keep refreshing the pool of talent in a way that continues to level us up? And all too often, we get caught up in this stasis where we become the face, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, where I become the face of the company and no one else is positioned in that role. And now, more than ever, it's important for me to make sure that I'm cultivating the rest of my team to take over for me, right? So that I can move to a different role and expand to
No
different
doubt.
markets and expand the company in that regard. I think the same has to happen at the ecosystem level, right? We need to continue investments in people. We need to continue to focus those investments on reducing technology market and execution risk, and bringing more resources to the table, more mission aligned resources to the table that understand the end game of greater GDP and greater economic development. If people don't understand that, there's no place for them in this mix.
Right. So, you just very eloquently talked about the importance of people, connections, and place. We have something in common, you and I, namely that our organizations both call as their landlord Provident 1898
Absolutely.
here in Durham. I know why we're here, but let me ask, why is that important?
Yeah, so that's so many reasons why it's important. Number one, I grew up in Durham, and this building, this edifice, is a landmark, right? It is to me the Empire State Building of Black entrepreneurship, and there's no better place to locate than in a landmark with such historical and cultural significance. The second is Providence 1898 is just full of great minds, right? Like it's one of those exciting environments where you have so many people that are both mission aligned and also hustling and creating and innovating and inventing, that you can bump into anyone at any given time, and it gives you that extra boost to take your team to a different level, right? And so the energy here is palpable. You come in, there are entrepreneurs here building everything from fintech to uh, you even have some social sciences and
Oh,
social
yeah.
investment. You have us in the climate and clean tech space. You have so many different industries that you gain really unique perspectives just by bumping into people.
Yeah.
And so it's a really rich environment for that for that reason. And I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Quite honestly, we had the choice of locating our offices and chemistry labs in the same facility.
Sure.
We made the decision to locate our headquarters here in Providence 1898 and our labs in Chapel Hill. Right. That's how important it is to be in an environment this rich.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And even with this last grant cycle, we have yet another funded company that calls Provident home. And that just warms my heart. It's hard not for my kind of paternal instinct to kick in and go, feel like a proud papa and say, yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give away any of my negotiating power here, but I'm feeling pretty confident we'll be renewing our 5-year lease in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
So clearly people and places and networks are important. So if I were to ask you, how many shared connections do you think we have on LinkedIn? What would you guess?
Wow. That's a really difficult question. I'm guessing couple hundreds, low hundreds.
You have good company, because my producer, Christian, who I'm looking at as he sits behind the producer mixer table, I asked him he knows that I ask this question from time to time. And so I asked him before you came into the studio, and he said likewise. He's like, a couple hundred. I'm happy to inform you it is actually 896.
Are you serious?
Mutual connections, and they are like from all over the world.
896.
So clearly you and I have put some miles in.
We have.
And have shared good company with really good people. And I think that just adds to this beautiful, friendship of ours, and I'm not surprised. And thanks again for bringing your intellect and experience and sharing it.
Well, Tom, there is it's interesting the number of contacts that we have in common, right? It really points to the level of connectivity and impact that really follows you. And I'll be effusive here in the short term. Tom, you are one of those people that that completely redefines culture, right? Wherever you go, and you know a man by the fruit he produces. And these types of connections that we share all over the globe are a testament to like the relationships that you build and how authentic you are. So before we wrap, there is a gift behind your chair. Today, I was informed.
Oh, you dirty, rotten scoundrels. You conspired.
I was informed that today is your birthday. And so there is a gift right behind your chair if you'll reach behind you.
It is a birthday that I had chose to ignore because it's one that ends in a 0, and it's not 40, and it's not 50.
So listen, what's important about this gift, Tom, is that there is some symbolism here with this. I don't know much about bourbon. I know you are a bourbon connoisseur. I don't know much about whiskey, likewise. But there's symbolism that's really important with this birthday gift. And that is the Frank Sinatra edition. And you think about Frank Sinatra, not just his legacy in entertainment, but he was unapologetic in some of the convictions that he had around equity and equality and making investments in others. And nobody embodies that more than you, Tom Rue. So enjoy your birthday gift. Enjoy the symbolism. There's a great story behind this, and nobody deserves it
more than you. Young man, we are going to have a conversation because you clearly conspired on this. Mr. Speight, you know how much I admire and appreciate you and just like you. I like to say the skunk smells his own kind, and you and I share the same stank.
Absolutely.
But Absolutely. This is above and beyond, and much appreciated. Certainly wasn't necessary. But this is now starting to become a trend because our former podcast guest also brought a bottle. When I said just casually, like, thank you, and like that nobody's ever done that, he actually took that moment and go, wait. And grabbed the microphone and he was like, what? So I don't know, maybe, the last episode, Blanton's, we haven't heard from them, but maybe Jack Daniels wants a sponsorship spot. But all kidding aside, thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
So I guess now I will try to end this episode. So thanks for tuning in. But I got to go, man. I got a bottle to open.
Stay connected with NC Idea on LinkedIn and Facebook. Subscribe to our newsletter for all the latest. Catch new episodes of Ecosysteming every other Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of this thing of ours.